Minasan, konnichiwa, Riley desu. Hello everyone, I'm Riley, and today we are going to be going over lesson number 4. What language do you speak? So, just to kind of preface the lesson, have you ever wanted to talk about other languages in a language other than English? Like, learning Japanese is pretty cool, but being able to talk about what other languages people speak in Japanese is also pretty cool. So, in this lesson, we're going to learn not only how to talk about the different languages people speak, but also talk about where they speak those languages. And using the Bunpo, we're going to learn to get to those two goals. You're going to be able to do a heck ton more. So I hope you have fun, and let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, so we've already talked about what lesson we're doing, and we've already gone over the objectives. So with that already talked about, let's go ahead and get right into some Tango. So there's going to be 2 slides. It's sort of a lot, but it's all pretty simple and kind of follows the same pattern. So go ahead and pause for a couple seconds or a couple minutes, depending, and copy all this down. And then do the same with this slide. Take a couple seconds. All right, so as you were going through, you probably noticed that most of the language words end in go. And the pattern in Japanese is they say the name of the country and then go afterwards. And that is just the simple way of saying the country's language. So while there's a lot of words, they're all pretty simple. If you know the name of the country, you can just tack go on and boom, you've got the language for that country. So yeah, it's not too bad. All of this was pretty chill. So let's go ahead and get into the bunpo, because now we have words we can actually string together. So the sentence we're going to be looking at for a significant portion of our time is going to be Haha wa uchi de nihongo o yoku hanashimasu, which breaks down like this, and which means this. My mom often speaks Japanese at home. So let's go ahead. We're going to take the sentence chunk by chunk and see what all the parts mean. So the first one we're going to do is Nihongo hanashimasu. And what this is demonstrating is a direct object and a verb. So the particle, which is new, is wo. It's usually just pronounced O, even though it's written with a W in O. Most of the time it's just said O. But it always comes after the object. And if you're unfamiliar with what an object is, think about it this way. When you eat something. When you play something. When you speak something, you say something. And so those somethings are usually going to be marked with O. So it's pretty simple. Nihongo hanashimasu means I speak Japanese. It's pretty simple. The example I have is also pretty simple. Ringo tabemasu, which means I eat an apple, or the apple, depending. So that's the first chunk. The next chunk is uchi de nihongo hanashimasu. So I already know what nihongo hanashimasu means. The next part is the de, uchi de. And de always comes after a place. It means at a place. Really, it just shows you where something happens. So you can have a party at a store or a restaurant, probably at a restaurant. Restaurant would be way more fun than just like at a random store. Or you can like play games with your friends at your house. You can Netflix and chill at your house. All those places would be marked with de. So a more benign example I have at the bottom is Gakko de nihongo manabimasu, which means I learn Japanese at school. So the next chunk and the final chunk for this sentence is yoku hanashimasu, which is an adverb paired with a verb. So adverbs just tell you something about how the verb was done. The verb was done a lot, or it was done a little. It was done quick, or it was done slow. And so it's the same idea as in English. The adverb comes before the verb in Japanese. If you can remember that, you can just kind of throw it in anywhere you want. Although generally speaking, it comes right before the verb. Because I'm a broke college student, this next example sentence is very relatable to me. It is ramen o yoku tabemasu, which means I eat ramen a lot. And I do, because it's cheap and it's pretty delicious. But I mean, it's probably not super good for my arteries, but meh, YOLO. All right, so that was the first sentence we've broken down. So now let's tack on another sentence. 母はうちで日本語をよく話します。でも、父は日本語を話しません。My mom often speaks Japanese at home, but my dad doesn't speak Japanese. And the part we're going to take a look at here, which is new, is demo. It comes after a sentence and at the start of a new sentence. And essentially, it's basically the same as the English but. I like Japanese, but I don't really like Chinese. I like kiwis, but I'm not a big fan of pumpkins. But just contrasts two different ideas, and that's exactly what demo does in Japanese. So the example I have is, 私はスペイン語を話しません。でも私は日本語を少し話します。Which means I don't speak Spanish, but I speak a little Japanese. Which will be true for most of you, unless you can speak Spanish, in which case kudos to you, that's really cool, because I can't speak any Spanish. All right, so that's it for Bumpo for this lesson. If you're interested in reviewing, you can go to page 120 in your textbook, or you can ask your teacher, or you can just kind of take a Google journey. Be careful with Google, though. Sometimes there are dumb people who say dumb things that aren't actually true, so probably just go to your teacher or the textbook. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at some examples and practice. And so I know most of you are probably sitting at the other end of a computer. You're probably watching this because like your teacher makes you. If you actually want to be watching this because you like Japanese, you are awesome, friend. But a lot of you are probably thinking something like Captain Picard here. Like, you can't make me. And yeah, you're right, I can't make you. But if you don't practice and you don't try, you're going to not do very well on your test. Or worse, when you try and talk to a Japanese person, they're going to be like, who the heck is this scrub? So, even though no one is there to watch you, I encourage you to engage in a small learning activity with me. All right. So what it is I'm going to read 4 example sentences and try and, before you, just kind of skip over it, try and understand it without reading it too much. Just kind of listen to it and see if you can decipher its meaning that way. 父はスペイン語を少し話します。Do you know what that means? Hopefully you do. I'm not going to tell you. You can go back and look at the Tongo if you need help. Haha, suckers. 友達はうちで中国語を話します。母は英語を話しません。でもドイツ語を話します。私は英語をよく話します。でも友達は英語を話しません。So that last sentence is actually, if you understood that last sentence, kudos to you, friend. Good job. But essentially, it means that you're kind of a butthead because you use your English as a weapon against your friends because you can talk behind their back about them and they won't understand you because they don't speak English. Ha! So don't do that. That's kind of rude. But if you have to, you can probably begin using Japanese at some point to do that with your friends from class. So those are just some examples that I read to you. You can go ahead and pause for a second and try and come up with a couple more example sentences because there's a lot you can do with these. Try and use vocabulary from past lessons with the new stuff you're learning. So go ahead and just pause for a minute or two. All right, so this is the time. It's going to be kind of fun, hopefully. If you like One Piece, you'll know who this guy is. If you don't like One Piece, you can go and check it out. It's a pretty good manga or anime. It's kind of long. It's like 900 episodes long. So be careful before you commit too much time to it. But I'm going to ask you some questions. And again, I can't make you do anything, but it'd be great if you could respond on your own to what I'm going to ask you. So I'm just going to ask you like 3 questions and just respond how you will. There's no right or wrong answer because they're open-ended questions, but give it a shot. あなたはうちで何語を話しますか？友達は日本語を話しますか？母はスペイン語を話しますか？ So those were just 3 sample questions of the sort of things you could ask people from what you've learned with this lesson. A quick note about answering questions in Japanese. You'll find this in your textbook too, but one of the important parts is that you answer the question with the verb that the question was asked with. So if someone asks you, これはリンゴですか? Is this an apple? You would say either, はい、リンゴです, or you would say, いえ、リンゴではありません. So you would use versions of des to answer the question. If someone asks you, 英語を話しますか? You wouldn't say, はい、英語です, because that's kind of strange. You're like saying, it's English when they ask you, do you speak English? You're like, yes, it's English, which is kind of strange. So you're going to say instead, はい、英語を話します, or more simply, 話します. So just keep that in mind. Answer the question with the same verb that the question was in, because that just makes things more cohesive and coherent. And that, my friends, is the lesson. That is Daionka, all there out there and in all of its glory. So just to make sure that you've actually paid attention, you should be able to 1, talk about who speaks what languages, and 2, discuss where people use their languages. Plus, because you know the particles wo and de, you can talk about all sorts of different things and where all sorts of different things happen. So yeah, that was a wonderful lesson. And as one last final note, you have a Quizlet somewhere. I know you do. And so you should do it. It's really good to test yourself real quick after you learn things, and then like a day or 2 later to make sure that you've got it. But if you have any questions, feel free to talk to your professor. Take a look at the textbook. It's actually kind of a fun textbook, so it might not be the worst thing to look at. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.